Did civilization begin at Karahan Tepe, the humanity before Göbekli Tepe? Imagine a barren hilltop in southeast Turkey, a place where the soil has hidden secrets for 11,000 years. Archaeologists brush away the dust and suddenly uncover a ring of mysterious stone pillars. They aren't just any stones, they're expertly carved T-shaped monoliths, adorned with animal figures and eerie human-like faces. In that moment, the team realizes they're peering into a lost world older than the pyramids and even older than the famous Göbekli Tepe. This site, called Karahan Tepe, might just force us to rewrite the story of civilization. Was this remote hilltop the place where civilization truly began? But before we dive into the history of humanity, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more cool and informative videos like this one. And don't forget to hit the bell icon so you get notified when a new one drops. Karahan Tepe was first discovered in 1997, not far from Göbekli Tepe in Turkey's Şanlıurfa province. For decades, Göbekli Tepe has been celebrated as the world's oldest known temple site, dating back to about 9600 BC. It reshaped our understanding of prehistory when it was discovered in the 1990s, showing that prehistoric hunter-gatherers could build huge stone circles long before cities or farming existed. Göbekli Tepe was once thought to stand alone, a solitary temple where nomads gathered to worship. But archaeologists have now found that it's not alone at all. It's part of a whole constellation of prehistoric sites spread across this region. And the crown jewel of these sites is Karahan Tepe, roughly 35 to 46 kilometers east of Göbekli Tepe. From the moment excavations at Karahan Tepe began in earnest around 2019, the findings have been astonishing.
We excavated here because we could see some quite large architectural components sticking out of the ground, and they seem to make a bit of an arc.
Beneath the hill, researchers uncovered over 250 stone pillars, many of that in a trademark T-shape, decorated with carved animals. In fact, 266 of these steles have been documented, along with numerous carvings of creatures and human-like figures. Clearly, whoever built Karahan Tepe was not a simple band of nomads pitching tents. We're looking at a substantial community with the skill and vision to shape an entire stone complex. Even more exciting, scientists now believe Karahan Tepe may be the earliest known human village, predating Göbekli Tepe's construction and dating all the way back between 9,500 and 10,000 BC. In other words, it's extremely ancient. We're talking about 11,000 to 12,000 years ago, when mammoths had only recently gone extinct and the world was just stepping out of the Ice Age. So, what was life like at Karahan Tepe? Unlike Göbekli Tepe, which at first seemed to have only temples and no homes, Karahan Tepe shows signs of being a place where people lived as well as worshipped. Excavations revealed domestic buildings, suggesting that ordinary people dwelled on site year-round. In fact, archaeologists have found houses alongside ceremonial structures, indicating a mixed site of both the sacred and the everyday. This means Karahan Tepe wasn't just a pilgrimage spot, it was a settlement. A community. Researchers estimate people lived here continuously for about 1,500 years, all while still relying on hunting and gathering. Now, here's the kicker. Despite the evidence of a settled life, scientists found no traces of farmed crops or domesticated animals at Karahan Tepe. The inhabitants were hunter-gatherers, yet they had built permanent houses and massive stone enclosures. This turns our ideas completely upside down. Traditionally, history books taught that humans settled down only after learning to farm, that once we domesticated wheat and sheep, we could stay put and build villages. But Karahan Tepe tells a very different story. Our findings changed the perception that settled life resulted from farming, says Dr. Nezmi Karul, lead archaeologist of the site. This shows that it began when humans were still hunter-gatherers and that agriculture is not a cause, but the effect of settled life. In other words, these people settled first, built a community, and only later might they have developed farming. It's a stunning revelation. Civilization's spark may have been lit by social or spiritual needs rather than food production. Imagine the scene. Small houses with stone foundations on a rocky plateau, inhabited by families who gather wild cereals and hunt gazelles in the surrounding hills. By day, they feed themselves on wild plants and game. By night, they come together by firelight amidst looming stone pillars, perhaps to share stories or perform rituals. Sacred and secular life blended together here. The people of Karahan Tepe built what they needed to live, and also what they needed to believe. They proved that even without farms or pottery, a determined community could organize labor to construct something extraordinary. The monuments of Karahan Tepe are not just functional, they're deeply symbolic and a little bit overwhelming. At the heart of the site, archaeologists uncovered a subterranean chamber that has captured everyone's imagination. Chiseled into the bedrock of this chamber stand 11 stone pillars, and here's the eyebrow-raising detail. Each pillar is deliberately shaped like a giant phallus. Yes, you heard that right. 11 towering stone phalluses arranged in a sort of procession, and at the end of the row, carved into the wall, is the life-sized image of a human head staring forward. In fact, a bearded human head with a serpent-like body was found emerging from the wall, watching over the phallic pillars. It's as if some ancient sculptor wanted to ensure that all who entered this hall did so under the gaze of a powerful presence. What could this bizarre arrangement mean? Dr. Karul and his team believe this building wasn't a dwelling at all, but a ceremonial hall, possibly the stage for a ritual procession. They imagine people entering from one end, walking past those formidable pillars, perhaps in a rite of passage, and exiting at the other end, having to parade in the presence of the human head carving. To make things even more intriguing, the chamber had a separate entrance and exit at a channel cut in the floor for water, like some kind of ritual cleansing or libation feature. Karul suggests the whole setup was used for rites of passage. Think of initiation ceremonies or transitions in life, enacted in stone. We may never know the exact purpose, but it's clear this room was meant to impress or intimidate anyone who walked through. It's arguably one of the most monumental and earliest examples of phallic symbolism in the world, and it's survived hidden underground for millennia, waiting for us to find it. And that's just one chamber. Karahan Tepe has yielded a treasure trove of prehistoric art. Alongside the pillars, archaeologists found numerous relief carvings, snakes slithering along the rock, a leaping fox frozen in stone, and depictions of dangerous beasts attacking human figures. In a recent season, they even discovered a carving of a running wild donkey on a limestone floor, a surprisingly lively artwork for such an ancient time. Animal motifs are everywhere, from insects to birds to mammals, creating a menagerie not unlike that of Göbekli Tepe. However, there's a notable shift at Karahan Tepe. Human figures appear more frequently in the art here than at Göbekli Tepe. At Göbekli, wild animals like snarling lions and cosmic vultures take center stage, while human images are rare. But at Karahan Tepe, we see humans carved in the ground and in relief, including that eerie stone head and even full statues. It's as if the people of Karahan Tepe were starting to see themselves as distinct characters in their cosmic story, not just animals among animals. Intriguingly, one thing missing from the art, at least so far, are female figures. Almost none have been found. Whether by chance or design, the art of Karahan Tepe seems to focus on male forms and wild creatures, hinting at a cult or a belief system that archaeologists are still trying to understand. The most jaw-dropping discovery came in 2023. A colossal human statue was unearthed at Karahan Tepe, astonishing researchers. Carved from stone, this statue stands 2.3 meters, 7.5 feet tall, and represents a naked human figure seated on its haunches, grasping its own phallus with both hands. Its eyes, nose, and even ribs are rendered in a lifelike way, making it perhaps the earliest realistic human sculpture ever found, dating to around 9,400 BC. To put that in perspective, this statue predates the famous statues of Egypt and Greece by thousands upon thousands of years. It even towers above the renowned Ufra man, a 1.8-meter statue found in the same region, which was previously one of the oldest human statues. The Karahan Tepe figure, bold in its depiction, suggests that the people here had remarkable stone carving skills and weren't afraid to represent the human form in large scale. Was this a deity, a mythological ancestor, a revered chieftain? We can only speculate. But finding such a statue hints that complex beliefs and social structures were present. You don't carve a 7-foot statue without a good reason and considerable effort too. All these findings lead to a profound question. Are sites like Karahan Tepe and Göbekli Tepe evidence that civilization began far earlier and for different reasons than we ever imagined? For a long time, the conventional wisdom was that civilization, settled villages, complex society, monumental architecture, etc., began only after the Neolithic Revolution, the point where humans started farming about 10,000 years ago. The logic was straightforward. Farming produces surplus food, which lets people settle in one place, grow their population, specialize in different jobs, and build temples and cities. But Karahan Tepe is challenging that narrative in a thrilling way. Here we have a settlement as old as 10,000 BC, where people built stone temples before farming. They proved you don't need domesticated crops or herds to spark cooperative building projects. Perhaps ideas, beliefs, and community bonds were the spark instead. Evidence is mounting that what we're seeing in southeastern Turkey is a big bang of human culture after the last ice age. This region, now fittingly nicknamed Taş Tepeler, Turkish for stone hills, contains at least a dozen sites from this era. Together, they form a network of the world's oldest known monumental landscapes, spanning an area of 100 kilometers across. Karahan Tepe and Göbekli Tepe are the most excavated so far, but many others lie waiting under grassy mounds. It appears that around 11,000 years ago, multiple communities in this fertile crescent area were experimenting with monumental architecture and perhaps exchanging ideas. Rather than one isolated genius culture, it may have been a loose collective of villagers sharing a vision. Archaeologists now think that Göbekli Tepe, Karahan Tepe, and their sister sites were connected, perhaps even contemporaneous, representing a region flourishing with innovation. Perhaps most evocative is what the people of Karahan Tepe did when they were done with these great structures. After 1,500 years of use, something changed. Maybe their beliefs evolved or their society faced new challenges, possibly the beginnings of farming or climatic changes. Rather than simply abandon the site to ruin, the inhabitants performed a final, monumental act. They buried their sacred enclosures. They filled the stone circles and chambers carefully with dirt and rubble, almost like an ancient time capsule. It was as if the site itself was laid to rest, richly decommissioned. This mirrors what happened at Göbekli Tepe, which was also deliberately buried around 8000 BC. Think about that. These people wanted to preserve their creations for posterity, or at least give them a proper ending, and they succeeded. The sanctuaries of Karahan Tepe remained intact, sleeping beneath the hill until our modern archaeologists uncovered them again. It gives one chills to realize that as we dig into the earth at Karahan Tepe, we are possibly witnessing the resurrection of a place that was ceremonially put to sleep by its makers, never meant to be seen again by human eyes. What stories were they closing the book on, and why? Or what do you think? Was Karahan Tepe a cradle of civilization, a ceremonial center, or something in between? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed what you saw, then maybe you'd enjoy checking out this video over here.